Good evening, everyone. Somebody could let me know that they hear me. I had to put on headphones after we started because my heater is apparently making some noise and didn't want to bother everybody. Thanks for the thumbs up. We had quite a few people who signed up for tonight, so some people might be coming in and coming out throughout the evening. Did want to thank you all for making the time this evening to join us and our student panelists. I just wanted to run over a brief overview of what'll be going on this evening for everybody, so everybody kind of has an idea. And then we'll get started with things. So I'm going to do some introductions of College of Education staff that have come here tonight. I myself am Travis Giffen, the Assistant Director of Online Programs for the College of Education. And I'll give others a chance to introduce themselves too. We'll then do an introduction of the three wonderful student panelists who were able to join us this evening. We'll turn things over to a student panel for the three of them to share what they have for tonight. And then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. If the audience doesn't have any questions, I have some prepared to make sure that keep things moving along. And then we'll have an opportunity for breakout rooms and network opportunities for everybody this evening. When we get closer to that, I will share the discussion questions that I have for everybody in the breakout rooms, and I'll post them in the chat so that everybody can see those also. After some time in the breakout rooms, I'll bring everybody back after the breakout rooms and some sharing out of what everybody may have learned from this evening or from others. And then we'll wrap things up, and I hope everybody has a great evening. With that said, I do want to let the other College of Education staff that are here tonight briefly introduce themselves. I'll go ahead and start with Sangeetha.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sangeetha Gopalakrishnan, and I'm the Director of Online Programs for the College of Education. We're so happy to have you all here. Many thanks to our student panelists. Some of you have been repeatedly helping us out by appearing at these events. We appreciate it very much. And it's great to have others join us as well. So this is one of our first initial efforts at creating these sorts of programming. So we're hoping to do more of these. And if you have ideas for other sorts of events that would be useful to you as students, let us know as well. And I'll turn over the microphone to Sarah.
Good evening. I'm Sarah McCarthy, and I'm Department Head of Curriculum Instruction. And we're excited for anybody who might be interested, especially in our master's degree online program. But happy to see all of you and welcome.
I don't think there's anybody else unless I'm missing anyone. I guess raise your hand or speak up if I missed you, and I apologize. Hearing none, I'm gonna just briefly introduce the students for tonight. We have Adrienne Lane, who's with us here tonight. She's a master's student in the Curriculum Instruction Bilingual and Bicultural program, minoring in Latin American Studies. She is originally from Sullivan, Illinois, but is currently living in Quito, Ecuador, where she's teaching 11th grade language and literature at the American School of Quito. Adrienne received her undergraduate degree in organizational and leadership communication from Illinois State University, and her previous career was in corporate insurance. The master's program at UIUC has allowed her to pursue her passion for education as a second language, ESL education, and that she initially discovered through volunteering teaching ESL at Ecuador back in 2017. Adrienne, could you just wave for everybody? Thank you. We also have Brian Egan with us here tonight. He is currently a third year education, policy, organization, and leadership EDD student with a concentration in global studies. Brian is a senior academic specialist who works as an assistant director of student affairs and international engagement coordinator at the College of Social Science at Michigan State University. Brian advises undergraduate students in social science, in particular STAR, success training for academic recovery students, those who are exploring majors in social science, and international students in social science. He also develops, coordinates, and implements support programs for undergraduate students. Additionally, Brian coordinates new student orientation for social science and teaches a first-year seminar course for students at the MSU College of Social Science. Outside of his regular duties, Brian also works with first-year seminar abroad programs at MSU. Brian, could you wave your hand? Thank you, Brian. And last but not least, we have Ariel Stevenson. She's the Director of Programs and Initiatives for the Office of Inclusive Excellence at California State University, San Marcos, CSUSM. I can't believe I got those letters right. She has over 15 years of experience in higher education as a facilitator, instructor, and practitioner in the area of equity and social justice. She is a co-creator of the Environmental Justice Internship Program and received the 2021 President's Award for Inclusive Excellence and Diversity and the 2021 Employee of the Year Award at CSUSM. She currently works closely with students, faculty, and staff in the wider campus community. Ariel received her MA in Sociological Practice from CSU San Marcos and her dual BA degrees in Sociology and Political Science with a minor in Latin American Studies from Albright College in Pennsylvania. Currently, she is an educational doctoral student at here at U of I. Thank you all for joining us this evening. With that, we'll turn over a bit to the student panel for the three of you. So if the three of you could unmute your mics as you speak. But I wanted to turn it over to you so you could share a little bit about recent successes or things that you're working on in your current positions and how you've been able to apply some things from your current programs. In no particular order. Does anybody want to go first, or I'll pick somebody? Brian.
Happy to kick it off. Sounds like I should have added, as a side note, some of my undergraduate information, because it turns out that the three of us have in common, one of the things that the three of us have in common is that we have some experience in Latin American Caribbean studies as undergraduates and some Spanish. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so somewhat related, I'll pick it up from there. As an undergrad, I did participate in a lot of study abroad programs. And so by way of that, in my current role and in the AD program, I'm looking at doing some research on experiential learning, in particular study abroad. And so I think having the ability to gain experience with your faculty members, whether that be in your current program or future program, is probably the best piece of advice I could share. Yes, that is somewhat biased coming from somebody who does research on experiential learning, but I think the research itself, the research speaks for itself, in that there's valuable experience that one can gain from hands-on experience working with their faculty or their advisor in particular. That's something that I'm doing now.
Thank you, Brian. Adrian or Ariel, could you go?
Sure. Thank you, Brian, for kicking that off and sharing. Yes, we have Latin American studies in common. It's interesting, when I was in undergrad, the department at the time, they had to choose between Latin American studies and African studies. And so they only had money for one track. And so Latin American studies was the option, because we weren't near our borderland, but it was what was voted for. And so a lot of folks out of my undergraduate school chose Latin American Studies because they had the credits to go. So it is an interesting point, and it brought back some memories from that time when I was an undergrad. And as I think about where I am now and where I was, it's interesting because I work in a university setting and I'm in the EDD online program and the diversity concentration. And I was super excited. It was my first choice to be in this program because I was very excited about the faculty that are in the program. When I did my research so I'm located in California, and I had some opportunities to be in many places, but this program was super important to me because it had Dr. Anderson in it, Dr. Trent, and their reputations go far and across the places in this world in terms of diversity. A lot of the programs that I was exploring did not have a lot of faculty of color. So when I had my first class and I had 2 women and women of color, I was super excited because that hadn't been my experience in my master's program or my undergraduate program. And so that was important to me. And just in terms of the work that I'm interested in. So my bio was super short and there were many things because you never know what to really choose to put in it. But what's important to me is I work in a borderland, and we have the most Indigenous folks per capita in our space, and the most tribes. And we do a lot of sustainability work. And so our campus wasn't talking about environmental justice. And so a lot of the work that I'm interested in is how diversity offices and sustainability offices, I believe, should be working together. And why that's important for student success. And already this is my first year in the program, so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. But already the program for my very first class had already given me some information and some activities to utilize already for the environmental internship program that I started at my campus. And I just wanted to say, I think it makes a difference specifically for people like me, a woman of color, in a program like EPOL, because there aren't many folks doing the work in the same way that professors contribute and publish in the same way, or contribute in other spaces and places, even when they're Ivy League institutions. And so that really makes the campus and the program unique. And that's what I want to say. And then I want to pass it to Adrienne so she can have some space.
Thanks, Ariel. So Travis mentioned my bio, but just to reiterate a couple things. So before getting back into education, I actually had a career in corporate insurance. And so this master's program in curriculum and instruction has really allowed me to switch careers. And what led me to that decision was after I graduated from the Illinois State University, I wanted to do some volunteer work abroad. And that's how I stumbled across teaching. I came to Quito, Ecuador to teach English as a second language, or ESL. And from there, I really developed a passion for teaching, especially English as a second language, and to Spanish-speaking culture. And so after that volunteer opportunity ended, and I went back to the US and, boring corporate America, I couldn't get education out of my mind. And so I started doing research on different master's programs that would allow me to explore English as a second language education and switch careers. And upon that research, I found this master's program that had the concentration in English as a second language. And initially that seemed like a perfect fit, but I really wanted to find a program that would allow me to also complete the master's while I was getting back into the classroom and gaining that classroom experience. And so I remember getting on a Zoom call with Dr. McCarthy And I told her, here's my background, here's what I want to do. Do you think this program would be a good fit and this would be realistic? And I remember after that conversation, I knew it was the perfect fit for me. Talking through it with her and her taking the time to speak with me and telling me how I could make that happen. That's when I knew that this was the right fit for me, especially with faculty who had such a rich background in English as a second language instruction. So that really sealed the deal for me, and I knew that was the perfect fit. And so I started the master's program back in January of this year. And then I started applying for teaching positions in Ecuador, where I currently am. So spoiler, I did find a position down here, and I really credit that to the instruction that I received at the U of I in this program, and just the connections that I made through the faculty and my peers and the networking I was able to do. And so I just started teaching here in this school year. And so I feel like this program has been such a huge support for me, being a new teacher in K through 12. Of course, I had prior experience teaching ESL, but it was more on the side. It wasn't like my full-time career. So I'm just so thankful to be in this program, being a new teacher, while having the support of not only my peers in the program, but also the professors, and being able to learn from them in the courses, and then just in the discussions. They've been invaluable for me. So that's what I'm currently working on. And it's also through my courses, it's led me to obtain a minor in Latin American studies as well. So like Ariel and Brian, we all kind of have that in common, which is neat. And it's funny that we've all come here together. So that's a little bit about my background.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I didn't get to share with you, Adrian. I'm also an alum from Illinois State University. So even we share something in common tonight. So with that, kind of wanted to open things up for questions from people in the audience to the panelists. I will try and field questions that they come up in the chat that would be for the three of you, or feel free to use the raise your hand function, and then go ahead and call on you, and can unmute, should be able to unmute yourself, or I'll unmute you to be able to ask your question.
Hi there, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Can some of the panelists speak to, so I have only ever gone to classes in all of my education in person. So I would be coming from Western New York, so I would be doing the program online and not in person. So can you guys speak a little bit about what that experience has been like?
I'm happy to see if I can help answer that question. Probably like yourself and other students on the panel, my master's and certainly my undergraduate degree both were in person. My master's is in student affairs from Michigan State, and I finished that like in 2006. And so I had I also did some ESL teaching and living abroad. So I just wanted to include that real quick, because I also find that pretty neat amongst the three of us as student panelists. But so I had that same concern about, what is this about taking, my full program online. I live in Michigan, and right, so it's not, Illinois is not far in terms of location, right? But I had never taken an online class prior to this. So I certainly shared that concern, but in all honesty, what I would say is I truly think it's what you make out of it. In other words, connecting with your peers, your student peers, connecting with your faculty. I've had the opportunity to connect with some other students. Erin, I see, is here. Erin and I, there she is. Erin and I have taken several classes together. I don't think Emily is here. Another student in the ePool GS program. We've taken a lot of classes together. And so I think if you reach out to students who are in the program with you and start around the same time, because the program, yes, does not have a cohort model. So my master's program did have a cohort model, obviously, where you move through the program together. And so that was really helpful in terms of creating friendships, some of which I still have, connecting, a little bit easier with faculty, having a sense of the campus culture, all those kinds of things. But I think in my experience, that's still true. So able to make some really good connections with student peers. I've been working a lot with Dr. Allison Witt. I've taken 2 classes, 3, losing track. And the point I wanted to make is I've worked on some research projects with her. And so I think that would be true for a lot of faculty, just reaching out to them, asking them about their research and how, can you be involved, things of that nature. Questions, right? So a lot of questions in class have been answered really well, either over Zoom meetings or email, right? So I, as Travis said or shared my bio, I'm in my 3rd year of the EDD program. And so I love it. I would definitely recommend it. There's Emily. Hi, Emily. And so I can't speak. I can only say good things. I really love the program is what I want to say. And I definitely recommend doing it if you, if it's a good fit for you. And so maybe talk to some of the faculty, as others have said, in terms of working through your interest and seeing if they align.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to add on to what Brian said, because that was my concern as well. In my undergrad, to be fully transparent, I took a few online classes and I dropped them because I just really missed that in-person interaction. And so that was definitely my concern with taking an online program. But this online program has exceeded all my expectations. I feel like the way that the classes are designed, they're so manageable, especially for me being a new teacher in a new culture. The classes have been very manageable. And I feel like the professors put so much time and effort into organizing the classes really well and making sure you still get those interactions that you would think you might miss out on in an online format. And so it's been great for me personally so far. I mean, nothing will ever replace in-person instruction, but I think if you can't be physically in person, the online program is designed very well for that.
Yeah, I want to just add to that or echo that as well. So my classes have been synchronous. So I'm on a different coast and there are other people in my classes from other countries. So I just want to note that. So I do like that experience because you get to know different folks, global perspectives. I think that's super important. There is my classes have been synchronous. There is a synchronous component, or they've mostly been so far. So I know people who want to know that information. So yes, and the faculty that I've encountered, like Dr. Pak, Dr. Hood, they have been super supportive. And I also want to just say, like, I have some, I don't want to say issues, but I'm going to call them issues when I first started. And every time I needed to email someone, my grad assistant or the graduate college or the program, if I didn't know something, people emailed me back within 24 hours. And I thought that was a really good thing because there's like 50,000 people at this school. I only have 17,000 people and they know me and it takes them 3 to 4 days to get back to me, So I thought that that's important to note, that people do, try to get back to you and answer your questions in a timely manner. And when I call even financial aid at this age, when I call, they answer, they get back to me because I had a lot of questions. Some of those things, when you're at my age, you're reliving the things from like undergraduate that you hadn't visited in a long time. And so I was a little nervous and apprehensive. And I was like, girl, you advocate for students all day. It's your turn to do these things that you tell people and do them and understand them for yourself. And I would just say it was very important that I had a supportive environment, because I waited 10 years before I went back to school. So it was just interesting. But yes, you're in classrooms when you register, because registration is coming up. They have like a coding for what are online classrooms to help you. Like Dr. Lee, there's been some changes going on. I think people are hiring in our college. People are getting appointed or applying to different positions. But so I say that to say some of the folks that I started with, like Dr. Lee is teaching there's a 500 class that helps you get acclimated as well to understand stuff. And they bring in like, I remember back in the day, someone to help you about the library and Zotero and all of those things I had forgotten, and just how to navigate, right? And that piece that Brian talked about for a sense of belonging is important. So my first class, and we would do small groups and discussions, and I think it's to help you connect also with your peers. I've collected like 3 phone numbers. We're in a group and we're accountable for each other, and that's super helpful. So Carly, to answer your question, and for folks who had other questions, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that. Next question I think I saw was Anna. Go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question if you still have it.
I know, Adrian, you had mentioned that you did a minor as well, or you're working on a minor as part of your program. Is that also online, or?
So it's not typically, because it's in the Latin American and Caribbean studies area. But just being in the university network has been great, because all the professors I've talked with have been very flexible within both departments. So I was able to add it and actually count some of my classes for my my program can count for the minor. And then I'm working with an individual professor in that area to get an independent study, so I can fulfill a language requirement from here and work with them individually, since I can't physically be in the classroom. So I think that is just to say that the university will work with you, the professors will work with you if you build those relationships, and you can make it work online, even if some things may not be traditionally offered online, if you reach out and just have to ask.
So how would you recommend starting that process if that's something that is of interest as well, like doing a minor?
Yeah, so for me, the way that it worked out for me, I took an Indian cultures class just because I was interested in it, because it focused on the cultures of Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. And me being in Ecuador, I was really interested in that. And so I took that course just out of interest. And then I built a relationship with that professor, and I started looking into see how I really enjoyed this class, and I feel like it would fit really well with the master's program that I'm doing. And so I did research, and I found that there was a Latin American studies minor. And so I just reached out to my advisor in the College of Education and said, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I do this? And then I reached out to the contact for Latin American studies, and I just kind of coordinated between the two. So I don't know I think you could just reach out to the department, even if you didn't take a class, and have that connection. And everyone I've reached out to in both departments have been super helpful, because I found that if you're interested in studying something and learning something, they're going to be supportive of that.
Thank you.
I forgot to unmute myself. Darian, I saw that you were next. Go ahead with your question.
No problem. I'm Darren George. Also went to Illinois State University as well. Class of 2006, dating myself. I'm currently a secondary principal here in Barranquilla, Colombia. 100% of my students are English language learners. So I just wanted to know, how does the program, I guess, prepare you for dealing with that type of population? And as well as like, what is U of I's, I guess, stance or progress on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Darian, we have a whole core class, 515, that you have to discover and understand and define what diversity, equity, and inclusion is and how you're going to utilize it, and understand like a plan for whatever population. So if that was your topic of interest, you would, for this particular class, because I just took it, so I just wanted to, it's fresh. So you would, Dr. Pock and Dr. Hood had us think about, like you say, that was going to be your dissertation topic, even though it was our first class and that's what you're interested in. From the very beginning, they give you all the tools to define those things. You go through all the ways in which diversity and equity and inclusion have been talked about and utilized, right, in academia, in K through 12, in higher education, and in organizations and corporations, right? And then you have to discover, what does that mean for the lens and the interest that you have? And then they help you through that. So there is a core class that's required to get you there, if that it kind of answers your question.
Yes, it does indeed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Gabriel, I think I saw that you were next.
Hi, thank you. So my question is specific to the EDD program with a concentration on diversity and equity. And I think, Ariel, you had already talked a little bit about it, but I'm just hoping to get more information, maybe a little more detail about your experience, things you've been pleasantly surprised by, or something you would have appreciated, going into the program, maybe what you hope to do with this once you're completed with the program. I'd really appreciate it.
Gabriel, I don't know if you were here when I said I'm a first-year student. So I just want to put that in there. I think Brian is a senior student, so Brian will be able to answer those kind of questions maybe better than I have. I was surprised that, I don't know how I missed this. I didn't know it was not a cohort style. So when I was in my first class, and I was like, how is this class got 80, 90 people in this class? That was a surprise to me. And I don't know how I missed it along the way. However, even though as the class went on, it became, as we engaged, they have small groups in the classes I've had so far. So we have the larger group discussions, but in the small groups, you do have community. So that was something I was surprised by. Gabriel, what was the other part of that question?
Just more detail about your overall experience. Like, for example, the cohort thing. I'm walking into this with the impression that it was a cohort. So this is news to me that it's not a cohort model. So,
I think
maybe something you didn't envision ahead of time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think in the core classes in the beginning, like anything that's a requirement, those classes I have master students in those core classes as well. I didn't know that. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise. But I think as you move along, it gets smaller. I'm going to turn it over to Brian because he's been in the program longer, so he has more details.
Yeah, so I am in my third year in the second part of the fall semester, and so there are really trimesters. At Michigan State, where I work, we have semesters, and so it's taken a while to get used to shorter terms. So the terms themselves are about 6 weeks or so. So the surprise would be one that the semesters go by fast, like in a good way, right? So you just, from my own experience, I wouldn't necessarily say that the pace is not doable. From my experience, it is in terms of the reading and the work. I do work full time. And so for others for whom that's true, right, I could see where that could be a big concern, trying to balance work, school, family, and have some other normalcy, other dimensions of our lives beyond those things. And the second thing, I did have a second thing in mind. What was it? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. But I don't know if there's a difference then between your particular question and being in the GES. That I honestly don't know. But I would say, I would reiterate getting to know your peers. I cannot say that enough. Just the fact that I've been able to connect with some students, Emily and Aaron, who's on here, my advisor, Dr. Witt, I would be lost, right? So I think that's triggering my memory in terms of the other point I wanted to make, which is I would literally be lost somewhere in cyberspace. I don't know where I would be. I'd be floating around somewhere in the clouds. And I say that half jokingly, but mostly true, that coming from a master's program that did in fact have a cohort model, somehow, some way I was able to bond with some of the students in the program off the bat. I think it was, Emily, just correct me if I'm wrong, it was 500, yes? If it's no, just unmute or something. But I think it was equal 500 with Dr. Lee, perfect. And so I think it was one of the group projects that somehow fate allowed us to be in a group. And we all, there were 3 of us in that group, in that assignment, that homework assignment. And the 3 of us, Emily's laughing, we quickly found out that we also had some mutual experience with Latin America. So that seems to be some sort of trifecta. So I would say, yes, getting to know other students, because otherwise it is easy to get lost, but it is what you make out of it. And I'm going to cut myself off there to see if I can help narrow in on the question or if others have questions.
So I just want to, there was a question in the chat, and I thought maybe it's a good question for our student panelists. I think Ayana asked, how do you know which concentration to choose?
I went in with my concentration because I work in diversity. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I was trying to, where I was in the work was circular at my institution, and I needed it to progress. Everybody all of a sudden, with the racial reckoning that was happening, wanted to be an anti-racist organization and didn't even have implicit bias training. So, or wasn't even remembering those basics. And so that's just something that I knew that I wanted to do, because I wanted to be able to come to my organization and really lead them. And I'm in a transitional place of, right, like I'm the director of a program trying to be a CDO in my future of an institution. So that's why I particularly chose my concentration for what I want to do.
For me, given my global experience as an undergrad, as a master's student, living abroad with an interest in study abroad and international students, the global studies concentration seemed to make perfect sense for me. I guess I would just put it that simply. But I also recognize, right, that it isn't quite as easy for everybody, but I guess I would just underline talking to faculty, right? So looking at faculty bios, for example, and seeing, if there are faculty whose research interests align with yours, and reaching out to them, right? Email and setting up a Zoom call or something, and just talking to them. They are very smart people, right? And so they will have very good advice for you as well. So I guess I would just put it that way.
Thank you for that. So we're running out of time that we have here for questions. We could take one more, and then I want to get us over to breakout rooms to make sure that everybody has a chance for networking. Alex, I think that you were next. If we do have time, Maria, we can get to yours, but I don't think that we'll have time tonight. I did post our grad services email that we can follow.
But maybe Maria will get a chance to ask her question in the breakout room too. So
yes, yep.
My question in some ways might pertain to what Brian just said, but in thinking about the application process and thinking about getting into the program with what you started with, how specific were you with your research focus area or your knowledge of some of the faculty? Brian, do you recommend, or any of the folks on the panel, do you recommend reaching out prior to faculty and getting an idea for those pieces? I just want to have a better understanding of what will create the best application process as somebody looking to hopefully get in one of the programs.
Alex, yeah, I would say yes. I think the short answer is yes, absolutely reach out to the faculty. They have been very responsive in my experience. And so that way you can get the answers to your questions with regard to your personal statement, things like that. My research interests initially were a little bit broader, right? That's speaking in generalities, but a little bit broader, but now much more narrow. So I think as long as you have an idea, while it might be a general idea, my thought is yes, that'd be fine.
Thank you for that. And thank you everybody for the questions. Thank you panelists for joining tonight. It was great to hear from you and thanks for sharing your experiences. Wanted to be able to be sure to offer some time for networking for everybody. So I'm gonna give everybody about 5 minutes in breakout rooms and then we'll bring everybody back. If we have time, we'll do some sharing out from what some highlights maybe that happened in the breakout rooms in the discussion. Some questions that I have for everybody for the breakout rooms I've posted in the chat too. But please share your name, share a program of study or a program you're interested in or what program you've graduated from. Share maybe what your dream job is or what your current job and maybe something exciting that you've achieved recently or a project that you're working on. So everybody give me one moment here. Everybody should go to breakout rooms here shortly.
And we're coming back, so don't run away.
Yes. welcome back, everyone. I apologize if you all wish you had more time. Things had good conversation and good discussion earlier on in the break and with the panel, and didn't want to take anyone away from that. But I guess we'll work to see what I can do for breakout rooms and networking opportunities in the future. But I did want to give everybody a chance to be able to share out a little bit. We have some time here. So if you raise your hand or want to speak up, and we can take turns and people can share something exciting from their breakout room.
As we're waiting for somebody to share, I see that several of our current students have volunteered to have given their email addresses and offered folks to connect with them, and that's great. So that's kind of that kind of networking was what we're hoping for. So that's awesome that it's already happening.
Also, while you're thinking, I did launch a poll here in Zoom so we can get some feedback on other types of events that maybe you'd all like to see in the future. So thank you for that input.
Well, in my group, people were not sure what their dream jobs are, but they have some. I think the very fact that people came to this event are an indication that they are pursuing a path forward towards their interests. So maybe not yet dream job, but they're definitely interested in exploring educational options, and that's why they're here.
Yeah, I'd like to share. My name is Charity Freeman. Pronouns are she, her. When you mentioned dream jobs, I actually, prior to my role now as Associate Director of Teacher Training with University of Illinois, I was a high school computer science teacher. And so I would tell my students all the time, it's kind of hard to ask a 17-year-old, what do you want to be doing when you're 42? Life changes, right? How many of us are currently working in jobs or have titles that didn't exist 10 years ago? Like, how much more is it that the way that, the world works now with the inclusion of technology literally everywhere? Yeah, so I think it's cool when folks have no idea what the next step is, because for me, that just kind of lets me know that the world is my oyster. I have lots of opportunities that are available for us to step into. So, yay. But my, what was that question? Program of study I'm interested in is the EDD in learning, design, and leadership. Part of my role now involves creating professional development experiences for computer science teachers at the K-14 level. And so I would love to be able to find additional ways to support teachers. As you guys know, this last year, 2 years, 3 years, just teaching as a profession is extremely difficult. And so to be able to find additional ways to support educators in those endeavors, I think is a worthwhile experience for me. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think I saw Aaron. Did you have your hand raised? Did you have anything you want to go for it?
Yeah, I was just going to mention in our group, we talked a little bit about like length of study for like how long the program, if you're looking at the doctoral program, like how long it takes, kind of what pace you could go at, kind of what the weekly commitment is in terms of hours of studying and preparing. And so that was kind of what we covered, and we kind of talked about, Emily and I, just in the group, like that a lot of folks seem to be on like a 4 to 5 year plan in terms of how long it takes, taking one course each term. And then like, at least speaking for myself, like I often refer to my kind of one course that I'm in each term as sort of like a part-time job commitment, like a 10 to 15 hour, like this is my part-time job that I'm paying to work and do. But that's kind of how I think of it in terms of the commitment. To me, it's manageable, but definitely an ever present in your mind that like, I got to keep working, I got to do my readings, things like that. So those are just some of the topics that we got to in our 5 or 10 minutes.
Thank you for that. I'm sure some folks have, other commitments this evening. I think there's a few here who have class at 6 p.m. and will be needing to join over for things. So I did just want to kind of wrap things up. Thank you everybody again for coming out tonight. We'll have more events in the future. I'll make sure to get that link thing figured out that went out in the email to everybody incorrectly. Also wanted to let everybody know that 12 hours after the event, we'll have a link that'll go out with the recording so you can catch up on a few of the things that you missed at the beginning, if you missed anything, and then also a survey for your feedback. In the slides that were running earlier, we did have some upcoming deadlines that are coming up that I did just want to share with everybody. So for the online master's degree, spring term A registration closes on December 1st. Spring term B registration closes on February 15th. For the instructional design master track certificate, spring registration opens up on November 15th. So just over 2 weeks away before that opens up. Registration for spring term A closes on January 3rd of 2022. Can't believe I'm saying 2022 already. And registration for spring term B closes on February 28th, 2022. The online Doctor of Education EDD applications open up, or application deadline is April 15th, 2022 for fall of 2022. Again, want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I guess give a round of applause for our panelists and everybody for taking the time this evening. It was great to see you all and spend the evening with you, and hopefully I'll see you all at other events in the future.
Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much to our panelists and our other students who've been great ambassadors for us. We'll see you all again, hopefully soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Take care,
Sangeeta.
everyone.
Thanks, Travis.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Oh.